Alright, so it is November, and that means it is National Novel Writing Month. There's a lot of hesitancy around NaNoWriMo, and for good reason. That 50,000 word goal in a month seems like a lot. The promise of trying to get people to write an entire novel in a month is a big promise, but it can still be really helpful for you regardless of what your goals are with this month. And so I invite you to start an NaNoWriMo challenge and listen to these tips on how to avoid burning out in the process. So I've participated in NaNoWriMo quite a few times, and only once have I actually succeeded. That was last year. I did manage to pretty much write an entire novel. I already had 25,000 words of the novel written, and I did manage to add on an extra 50,000 to it, so I actually did have like a full book by the end of it. However, obviously when I went to look at that book again, there was a lot of editing to be done because I just kind of wrote without any care or rhyme or reason of what was going on. I was just putting stuff down on the page. Before we get into that, let's just talk about what NaNoWriMo is, what it entails, and how people get burned out from it. So obviously, as I said, NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, it is a challenge every November where you gotta write 50,000 words in a month. And they break that down into 1,666 words a day. So for the entire month, every single day, they say that you should be writing that amount per day. For frame of reference, I had a goal for myself for 1,500 words 4 days a week, and which is, about 6,000 words a week, and that alone is quite a bit. I've condensed it into 2,000 words 3 times a week just to try and give myself more days for other stuff. It's a lot. That's about 3 to 4 hours of writing a day for me, which a lot of people simply don't have the time to do. But obviously, right, so long as you hit that fancy target, it technically counts. Yeah, there are all these fun badges and you can update every day and all that kind of stuff and get all these things and cross your T's, dot your I's, and fill this whole board. Or, you can just go at your own pace. But regardless, that is the goal, 1,600-ish words a day, every single day, and it's just a recipe for a bad time. This was what burned me out the most, was trying to write every single day with not a single day off, and that's why there is a lot of discussion about NaNoWriMo being, a case of almost like ableist push, because not a lot of people have the time, the energy, the wherewithal to be able to find an isolated few hours every day to sit down and write. But at the end of the day, NaNoWriMo is what you make out of it. So if 50,000 words is too much, you can choose to open up a different project. You don't have to associate your project with NaNoWriMo. When you select NaNoWriMo 2022 on the website, it will force you to set 50,000 as a word goal, but you can just disassociate it with that and work on a different project in general. You can set whatever word count you want. What NaNoWriMo should really be about is finding a way to set a habit, and that is my first tip for burnout. Don't focus so much on the word count. Focus on consistent writing, okay? Because if you can find the time, energy, and weekly pattern to be able to write even just 500 words a day, even just 250 words a day, or 1,000 every 3 days or something like that. If you can find a pattern and a routine that will have you writing consistently, that's going to be a lot better than trying to burn yourself out writing a really high word count every single day of a month. By the end of NaNoWriMo, you should be in a place where you have kind of a routine, where you've kind of nailed it down, and you can say, yep, I can consistently write it these days. Because at the end of the day, slow and steady wins the race. You are much better off writing a small amount of words per day and keeping consistent than you are trying to write a ton of words at once and then burning out, going off the rails, and never writing for another 2 years or something. Another tip is to get some accountability partners or make an event out of it. And they do actually have with NaNoWriMo different state groups. So for instance, I'm in the RoadieWrimos group, and they do have writing events. So for 2 hours on a Wednesday night, you and other people in your state who are participating get together on a Discord call or a Zoom call, and you just kind of You just kind of write with other people. Sometimes that sense of community and almost gamifying it can help you feel less like you're doing a chore. Because the biggest way to burn out is when something you love becomes a chore, let me tell you. These events are pretty regular. They happen, every week or so during the month of NaNoWriMo. And so they're a good way to kind of check in, maybe make some new friends, actually schedule in times to definitely write. And that kind of accountability and community is something that can help you feel a little bit more motivated to keep going. Another tip is to work on something totally new. So for instance, last year, I was really struggling with the book that I'm writing now, which is the second book of The Glass Witch, my debut novel. And it was hard. I'd been working on it for a long time. I couldn't really work out the problems with it. And I just needed to get away from it. So I worked on a completely different standalone book that really has nothing to do with it. And it was a really good break. So I have a whole manuscript that I'm just kind of sitting on, waiting for me to come back and revise it while I continue The Glass Witch as a series. But being able to do that with NaNoWriMo, way better for my productivity. If I had to do The Glass Witch Book 2 for NaNoWriMo last year, I would not have been able to do it. As it is, trying to do that this year is a little daunting, mostly because I don't have a schedule that allows me to write the amount of words that NaNoWriMo says you should write. But all that aside, if you start something new, because we all have a ton of stories in our head at any given point, and when we get so embroiled in one project, it's so easy to get sick of it after a while, especially if you've been working on the same book for months. So easy to get sick of it. So pull out something new, draft up and really plot out a story you've been thinking about for a long time and just go with it. So tip number 4 is do not cut yourself off or force yourself to keep going when you are at a natural start or stop. And what I mean by that is sometimes I will be under my word count for the day because I'll end a chapter and I'll be at 1,700, 1,800 words, and I'm not starting a whole new chapter to get that last 200 words. Because chances are the next day, I might be really inspired or writing a really long chapter and I just keep going, and maybe I'll hit 2,400 words or something like that because I'm just absolutely shredding the keyboard that day. Don't feel like you have to hit the same number every single day. If you're under a little bit, maybe the next time you'll be over a little bit. It doesn't matter. Try not to get so wrapped up in the numbers that you lose sight of what you're actually trying to do. And my 5th and just most important tip is to remember that it is not that serious. It really isn't that serious, okay? It's a 1-month challenge, 1 month out of the year. No one cares if you participate or not. No one cares if you finish or not. It's not like if you don't finish it or you don't write every single day that you're some kind of bad writer or a failure or something. I feel like a lot of people see that 1,600 words a day or that 50,000 words a month and they get so wrapped up in that number that when they start falling under or they start, or they miss a day, that they just kind of spiral. There is no need to spiral. The point of NaNoWriMo isn't to be perfect, right? It isn't to just hit this challenge like it's a breeze. The point is to just kind of make an event, make a challenge out of writing to encourage you to build a daily habit or any kind of consistent schedule. Again, I don't write every day. I love writing and I do not write every day. But as long as you can build that consistency and at the end of the month come out saying oh, these are the times where I wrote the best, these are the times where I wasn't really writing that well, these are the times that are the easiest for me to sit down and get into the zone. If you can come away with that, you won NaNoWriMo. It doesn't matter how many words you write. If you can come away saying, this is when I can get the best work done, you have won NaNoWriMo, in my opinion. I hope you guys are, kind of making plans, doing what you gotta do, and really just kind of having fun with NaNoWriMo. And if you're not participating, I do hope that you're still getting a lot of words written down, that you're having all kinds of inspiration, and that you're having a great rest of the month. So with that, I will see you guys around next week for some more writing tips and other kinds of stuff like that. See ya! By the way, if you want to see these videos 2 weeks earlier, consider subscribing to my Patreon, where you not only get all these videos, but also recipe cards, specific deity profiles, and lots of other interesting things to look at. Video tiers start at $10 a month, so definitely consider checking it out.